Chapter 20 Hand in Hand. Lunar date 3.1625.9.15. 2 hours and 14 minutes after night rise.
Abigail Sharp, Headmaster Jeanette Wexley proudly announced. With a bright smile on her face, Abigail walked across the platform in the Dominica Baldwin Center. Under her wine-red capelet, she was wearing a thigh-length, long-sleeved forest-green dress with black tights, a brown leather belt, and a matching pair of knee-length boots. Floating above the nexus in the center of the arena was her commencement hologram with her degree of study floating under her name, Scholar of Archaeological Studies. Beneath that was her prestige number. It shifted from 112,420 to 122,420. Those in attendance started cheering and congratulating her for her achievement. That number used to be her entire focus. It used to be why she wanted to please her parents and enter into a relationship with someone who could increase it even more. It used to control her entire life. Now? Now, it was just a number. Abigail accepted the holographic plaque displaying the same information as the floating display along with the name of the academy and Headmaster Wexley's signature. She glanced back at the other side of the platform and smiled at Daniel, who joyfully returned the smile. After many conversations with Daniel, Emmy, and Seth debating if she should invite her parents or not, she eventually did ask them to attend. She knew it was something Arnie wanted her to do. Her mother said they'd only attend if she came back home to live. Abigail wasn't ready for that type of commitment yet. She was still working on forgiving her parents. In order for healing to occur, she knew she needed to avoid the toxic atmosphere of her parents' home. Her mother's insistence reaffirmed her decision to decline. In turn, they also declined to attend. It hurt. She cried a lot. Except, this time she wasn't alone. She had the support of Daniel, Emmy, Seth, and all their families. Deb and John fabricated a sign saying how proud they were of their daughters. Her eyes started to glisten as she caught sight of it amongst the crowds of people in the auditorium. I am working on forgiving my parents. It will take time. Some days are better than others. There are times I still fall back into those same old feelings. I won't today. For now I'll enjoy my real family. Ones who truly love me for who I am, not who they want me to be. Abigail continued walking to the other side of the platform and paused. She turned and waited. Daniel Shepard. Daniel walked towards Headmaster Wexley. Like all the graduates, he was wearing his wine-red capelet across his shoulders. Underneath, he wore a dark blue vest over a black long-sleeved undershirt, with matching dark blue pants and a pair of black leather boots. His prestige number shifted from 34,570 to 44,570, and the words Professor of Historical Studies danced beneath his name. When he joined her on the other side, he kissed her quickly, though it was still filled with love. Thank you for waiting, he whispered. Always. Abigail took his hand in hers. They returned to their seats and enjoyed the rest of the ceremony. Afterwards, a time of refreshments and fellowship was held in one of the auditorium's multi-purpose rooms. Abigail and Daniel gathered together with their family and friends. Finally! Shiloh exclaimed. We did it, Abs! Now on to whatever life has ahead of us. Any idea of where you're going? Seth inquired of Shiloh. Wherever the wind shall take me. I may just travel the world for a bit, maybe find a place that calls my name and settle there. Abigail's heart was both overjoyed and depressed. She knew they'd all be going their different ways once their academy days were finished, but the realization didn't sink in until that moment. Well, we will definitely make time to visit one another. Abigail placed her arm around Shiloh's waist. Absolutely, Shiloh said, squeezing her arm around Abigail, lifting her nexus. Picture time! The two girls smiled as Shiloh snapped a picture. Deb and John arrived and hugged both Emmy and Abigail. We are so proud of both of you, Deb said with a gracious smile. Thanks, Mom, Emmy replied. Thank you, Abigail added. An ache in her heart reminded her that her parents weren't there. She shook it out of her mind. I don't want to focus on that. Not now. Enjoy the night, Abigail. What's the plan for the rest of the night? Daniel asked the others. Are we going to stick around here? Go somewhere else? Up to you, Thomas answered. You're the graduates. Tonight is your night. Whatever we decide, do you mind if my parents tag along? And my two younger sisters? Shiloh asked the group. Of course they can, Emmy smiled. Okay, I'll go find them. I will be right back. Shiloh ran off. So, what do we want to do? Daniel repeated his question. Congratulations, everyone! Theo stormed over and grabbed all 4 graduates into a loving embrace. I cannot express how proud I am of each and every one of you. Thanks, Theo, Emmeline said, for all of them trying not to be squished in the middle. In the months since Abigail and Daniel had officially been dating, she had come to know and love Theo like the rest of them. After the Shadow Griffins' victory at the World Championship, Theo took ownership of the team and entered them into the official Solar Face-Off League as an organization. His goal was to have a team competing at every level. Abigail believed he was going to accomplish his dream one day. He already had his first 2 teams. In the age 19 to 25 bracket, Theo recruited Nolan Actor and 2 other career players to carry the team. Daniel highly recommended Nolan and even talked to him before Theo made the official pitch. At first, Nolan didn't believe he'd be comfortable playing his games at the consortium where he'd have to see the holographic victory image of Daniel, Emmeline, and Joseph every day. With a playful smirk, he had told Daniel he'd use it as inspiration to win the next championship, plus many more, so he could have more victories than Daniel. Daniel had told him he looked forward to watching him compete. Nolan did end up winning the best stats at the championship, a fact he joked about with Daniel. Apparently, Daniel's final sacrificial death at the hand of Nolan was the difference. Daniel, of course, didn't let it bug him. The other team was for the 15 to 18 bracket. After using the strategy of the fighters in the final match of the World Championship, Daniel kept his word and praised the Little Elephants for originally creating the strategy. With this in mind, it didn't take much convincing for Theo to invite them to be the new Shadow Griffins. All of them were 16, which meant they still had 2 years left to fight their way to the top and try to repeat as champions. Abigail's thoughts were interrupted as Shiloh returned with her family. They found a table large enough to accommodate all of them. They spent the rest of the night sharing stories, laughing, drinking, and consuming way too much food. Around 4 hours after nightrise, the capillets of the graduates long since removed, Abigail and Daniel decided to spend some alone time together. Daniel helped her with her coat and they ventured outside. They wanted to take a little bit to say goodbye to their home for the past 4 years. It was evident the night was cool because they could see their breath in clouds as they talked and walked. I can't believe we are finished here, Daniel reminisced. So many memories. You know what's even crazier? What? He asked. We've only known each other for a year, Abigail pointed out. That's only a quarter of the time we were here. And yet, it feels like this past year has encompassed all of our time here, Daniel responded dreamily. The good and the bad times, Abigail mentioned softly. It wasn't that the memories she had from the time before she met Daniel were horrible. They weren't. Not exactly. Shiloh and her had some great adventures. Even though she was dating Dorn for nearly a year, it wasn't all bad. Still, this past year with all the ups and downs was her favorite. I wouldn't change any of it. Really? Daniel wasn't convinced. None of it. Think about it. If we did change something, we may not be here tonight walking outside in the cold hand in hand. She could tell Daniel was struggling with something. What is it? He let out a deep sigh, the vapor from his mouth extending a few feet in front of him. I know you forgave me, but I still beat myself up at times for what I did. I wish I could change that. She playfully punched him in the arm. Hey, what was that for? With his free hand, he rubbed the spot where she hit him. I did forgive you. So did Emmy, and Seth, and your brother, also your parents, even Nolan. Do I really need to list everyone? I mean, you're on a roll, so why stop now? He smirked. The point is, Daniel, you are forgiven. Stop beating yourself up. Plus, I've been thinking, if you hadn't been a Coda, I may not have arrived at the point where I could be open to following Arnian. He stopped. I never thought of it like that. She leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. Exactly. Let's not live in the past anymore. Forgive and move on, remember? Let's focus on the future. Together. However, just because being a Coda in the past led to something good doesn't mean you get to be a Coda in the future, she grinned up at him. He held up his hands innocently. I wouldn't dare try it, Nature Girl. Better not, Arnian boy. Abigail studied her surroundings. Speaking of the past, notice where we are? Daniel's eyes widened. The courtyard where we fought that day. Yup. I didn't even realize we were coming this way. She motioned towards where they had sat. Yeah, me either. She picked up on the slight change of tone in his voice. You're lying. Am I? He tilted his head with a shrug. Before she could respond, he knelt down and threw some soft snow up into her face. "Oh, are you sure you want to start something?" she said, giggling. "I think I already did," he laughed. Abigail picked up some snow and formed a small ball. She threw it straight at Daniel. It exploded off his arm as he tried to block. He returned fire and barely missed her. Forgetting she was in a dress and throwing all caution to the wind, Abigail rushed towards Daniel. Tackling him into a nearby snowbank, they continued to wrestle and laugh until they finally stopped as she was lying on top of him. Both of their cheeks were red from the cold snow. She lowered her face and started kissing Daniel with all of her love. She didn't care about her dress, leggings, or hair being soaked from the snow. He returned the passion, placing one of his hands at the nape of her neck. Seconds later, though it seemed like minutes, they sat up and huddled closely. "We should probably go inside and get something warm to drink," Daniel said, starting to shiver. "In a few minutes," she softly replied. "Want to enjoy the romantic moment?" he asked with a tinge of sarcasm. "That," she chuckled. "And I think my feet are slightly frozen, so I'm hoping cuddling close to you will help warm them up." Daniel reached inside his coat and pulled something out. Abigail's breath caught in her throat. Daniel was holding a sparkling silver necklace with 2 rows of 5 silver beads, each decorated with a stone representing the 10 months of the year. "I designed this necklace for you as a token of my love." His lips were quivering as he spoke. Abigail wasn't sure if it was because of the cold air or the words he was saying. "It can connect to your nexus, and you can store images in each of the beads based on what month you take them in. And then whenever you want to see them," he pushed the 9th bead with the amethyst stone, and an image of Daniel and her from earlier in the night showed up in front of them. "You just have to push the bead and look at them." She felt him take a deep breath. "I want to give this necklace to you as a matana," he declared, staring deeply into her eyes. She froze. A matana was a gift given to someone you wanted to marry, which meant, "Yes, Abigail." His words were overflowing with love. "Will you marry me?" All words seemed to evaporate from her vocabulary. She wanted to tell him her answer, but her lips weren't moving. Tears started to slowly trickle down her cheek. She noticed Daniel's eyes were starting to water as well. "Artyom, please give me the ability to speak." Not knowing what to do, she pulled his face into hers and kissed him gently. In between kisses, she finally found her voice. "Yes, Daniel," she whispered joyfully. "Yes, I will marry you." Thank you for listening to my book, Palmera: A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmera, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hine Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.